Hello, Maccabee Nation. Welcome to our second interview. We're joined today by Noam Zimmerman. He was a paramedic in the IDF during Operation Protective Edge, and he's now a reservist. Noam has also worked as an EMT for Magen David Adom following his military service. He's a fellow alumni from Reichman University, where he studied business law. Noam is working to help build the Paramedic Alumni Foundation under the name Always Beside You. We'll provide a link in the comments to that organization as well. And Noam, thank you so much for joining us today. Let me know if I got all that correct.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, everything is correct. Very happy to be here.
Awesome. So can we start by maybe describe your journey to becoming a medic and being in a combat unit? Was that a specialization that you kind of was that something that you requested? Were you kind of voluntold that that was what you would
Yeah,
become, or how did that come about?
yeah. So I started volunteering for Magen David Adom as a youth volunteer as of when I was 14, 15. And growing up and figuring out what I want to do in the army and how I want to serve my country the best possible way, uh, I decided that I want to be a paramedic. So that is something that you need to ask for. Annually, there are only about 80 paramedics that are enlisted into the army, which is not a high number at all. I'm assuming that that number might rise due to the current events, but that's what was happening. It was, I would say, rigorous adventure to get the job, to get the invite, let's say, for the application. You need to really request, you need to show that you want the job, you need to go through different exams to get into the course. Yeah, and that was how I got to be the paramedic.
Awesome. And for people who aren't as familiar with the IDF, might not understand the difference between like a combat medic and an infantry unit versus a paramedic. Can you tell us a little bit about what the difference is?
Yeah, of course. So when you look at the medical corps of the IDF, there are many positions you can fill. You can be in, let's say, sort of a hospital-ish kind of thing, or you can be in a unit, an active military unit, or in a training base. You can do many positions. What I was doing was a combat paramedic. I was part of an infantry battalion from the Nahal Brigade. And for the second year of my service, I was in the what's called the IDF intensive care units in Judea and Samaria, where we treat everybody around us like a intensive care unit of Magen David Adom that also treats IDF soldiers, residents of the area, even Palestinians that live in the area. Just provide very advanced medical services to everybody at need.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that. And what are some key either physical or personality traits that separate someone who's really good at the job from someone who might not be?
So I think you can divide it into two sections. First of all, you need to be very mature. Uh, Being a combat paramedic or a paramedic at all, you get to deal with very tough situations. You get to see death, you get to see injuries, very tough situations, both in the civilian life and also in the army. So you need to be very mature, very calm, and able to function under pressure. When you look at the physical traits, there's no mandatory requirements. You don't need to be in the top shape of your life. The way I looked at it, it was I need to be at least as fit as my fellow soldiers to the battalion because they will look left and right and then we'll see, oh, this is the guy who's supposed to save my life and get in case I get injured. I want to make sure that when he gets to me, he won't be out of breath. Because if you're out of breath when you're treating somebody, you won't treat him as well as you can. So I always looked at the soldiers that are next to me and I said, I want to be at least as good, even not better, because I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel that they're in good hands. So it also being a professional paramedic, but also showing them that I'm in shape, that I know how to be a good soldier, a good combat paramedic, and that I'm in good shape. So That's when I divided it.
I was kicking around Nahal around the same time, so I'm glad we never ran into each other.
Yeah.
Um, Israel, especially in the news now, is often accused of a variety of war crimes and different things. Can you tell us more about the reality of Israeli military policy when it comes to medical care and maybe some more of someone who's actually been there? What's your experience actually been like?
So I'm going to speak from my experience. As always, I'm not representing the IDF or anyone, but I can definitely say that I've treated many Palestinians. When I say Palestinians, I mean also civilian Palestinians that did no harm to anybody, that were just injured by car accident, and we provided them with great medical care that they couldn't get in their facilities, which includes transporting them to Israeli hospitals, so they will receive the best possible medical treatment that they can receive. In addition to treating terrorists, let's say it often happened that we received to where a terror incident happened, I can give an example where a terrorist shot two soldiers. So the soldiers happily were mildly injured. So I treated them, and after I treated them and made sure that they're safe, we went on and treated the terrorist, which wasn't killed in action, was badly injured, and we also transported him to an Israeli hospital, and he received very good health care, and he lived. So this includes also in war times that as published in the news, the IDF is setting up field hospitals in Gaza, and together with international organizations, we're providing a lot of health care, amongst other humanitarian aid, to all Palestinians in need, including the terrorists themselves sometimes when it doesn't harm or puts us in substantial danger. I'll word it that way.
Yeah, I appreciate that elaborating on that, and I think it's really important that people know that. Can you tell us a little bit about the transition from military life to civilian life, and how maybe working for Magen David Adom was maybe different from your time in the IDF?
Yeah. So I will first start and say that the IDF paramedic course is uh, also in collaboration with Magen David Adom. So my learning, my certificate was equal. I in a sorry, in fact, I even knew more and could have done more medical procedures than a civilian paramedic. So license-wise, it's exactly the same. Course-wise, it's the same. Uh, the combat paramedic life is more based on trauma, gunshots, fatal car accidents that we see in Judea and Samaria and all over, and more of the trauma life. Whereas in Magen David Adom, you're more focused on diseases. So we see everything in Magen David Adom, and unfortunately, I've seen very fatal car accidents, terror incidents, shootings, stabbings, and everything. You can also see that in Magen David Adom. But being a combat paramedic, because we're surrounded by healthy people, like the battalion, like you were in the Nachal, there are 450 soldiers that they're mostly healthy. So you don't see many diseases. Maybe you see some asthma attacks, but you don't see what's called heart attacks. We don't do much CPR, but we do see a lot of trauma incidents. That's the main focus in the army. Uh, and Magen David Adom, it's mainly treating in like diseases, older people, sick people, but also trauma.
Yeah,
And
that
one of
makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
And reflecting on kind of the breadth of experience that you have, what advice would you give to a new combat paramedic, or somebody who is thinking about getting into this kind of line of work?
I think the best advice I could give somebody is you need to make sure that you're mature enough to deal with everything. And it's really hard to know that in advance, that you're mature enough that you're aware of the responsibility that you have on your shoulders. You will learn the profession, you'll practice, and you'll be very professional on the way. But there's one thing that nobody can teach anybody is being mature. So if you're a mature person, go for it. I still believe, even though I'm sure we'll probably discuss my current situation, that this is the best position anybody can fill if they have the orientation and the desire to do anything in the healthcare field in the army. I think being a paramedic was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Filled me with joy, and it's a great pride that I have. Being able to save lives of anyone, but especially soldiers, something that I will take with me to the grave. So in conclusion, if you're mature and you love healthcare, go for it and do anything you can to get into it.
Awesome. And I think going, looking at the scale of the current war, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, do you think that Israel has the infrastructure to meet not just the physical medical needs, but after the mental healthcare needs? Let's talk about that more.
Yeah. So, and this I will want to say explicitly that I'm speaking from my experience only. Um, no, I think this is one of the greater challenges that we as an Israeli society will be dealing with in the next upcoming years. It's a very problematic. Uh, I suffer from PTSD, from post-traumatic stress disorder, from protective edge operation, and we can see now that there are many thousands of soldiers and civilians that are expressing PTSD symptoms as well. And the numbers are only going to rise, and there are not enough of therapists, there are not enough of institutions, and yeah, it's going to be a great challenge, I believe. This is only from my experience and from what I can see on the news. I know that the government is working on it. I know from speaking with my therapist that there are a lot of initiatives that are aimed at easing the pressure on the system, let's call it that way, to help everybody get the treatment that they need. So we want to prevent as much as possible the PTSD. We want to give everybody in need the basic treatment that they need and require. Uh, and yeah, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a great challenge.
Yeah, I think that segues nicely into the work that you're doing with the Paramedic Alumni Foundation. Can you tell us more about that organization's mission, um, and maybe some ways that the community and Maccabee Nation can help?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So the organization Always Besides You is a fairly new organization that we're just setting up literally as we speak. It's an initiative by two former paramedics, a bit younger than I am, that saw the need. Uh, if I go back 10 years ago, after a protective edge operation, we had nobody looking after us. I mean, a paramedic in the battalion, I was one paramedic out of 450 soldiers in one battalion. It's sort of a lone wolf. Nobody can look after you. I'm dealing with other stress, other situations than the other soldiers, and nobody saw me. And these two very brave paramedics, I will call them, for trying to set this up during the war, during this situation. So they saw the need and they said, we're going to do something about that. So the first thing is that they're doing, and they already started to do, and tens of paramedics have already started um, the process of receiving mental health care. They're going on special retreats with therapists that are aimed at preventing the PTSD symptoms, and it's great. Uh, it's a little hard for me to speak about it, even though I saw the questions before and I was trying to remember, because
No,
it's
take
really
your time.
it's very emotional because I look back 10 years ago and I say, I wish I would have had this 10 years ago. My life would have been completely different. And what they're doing is fantastic. So the main focus now, the main idea is to provide every paramedic with all the mental health care they will need, whether it's right now going on these special retreats with organizations that are aimed at preventing PTSD syndromes. They're processing the events, they're processing what we're going through as a nation, what the paramedics themselves went through, and that's supposed to prevent PTSD. And in addition to the prevention, they're focused on providing every paramedic in need the tools uh, to get any mental health they will need. I mean, going to see a therapist is costly. It's thousands of shekels a month, and especially if you're in the midst of the beginning of PTSD, sometimes I wasn't able to work for a few months. So it's something that costs a lot of money, so we need some financial support. So that's what they're aimed at doing. In these days, we're doing a fundraising campaign. That's the main focus of it, is the mental health. In later years, we're speaking, there are additional goals for this foundation to provide any need for paramedics, guidance when they finish their army service, when they start their professional life, many very good goals and purposes. But right now, as we speak, and for the foreseen months ahead, we're only focused on the mental health of paramedics. We don't want to see anyone like me in 10 years saying, oh, I have PTSD. I personally don't want to see any paramedic suffering. We all gave everything we can. Unfortunately, we lost fellow paramedics in this war, providing providing healthcare and medical care for other soldiers. We don't want to see anybody suffer from PTSD or any other mental disease. So that's what we're focusing on, and I will give you the link. You have the link. We'd appreciate any financial aid that anybody can give. Any donation can do wonders. We're working now with JGive and the campaign, which is tax deductible in the US and Canada and England. I'm sorry for being a bit emotional
No,
but
please.
yeah, yeah, it's very important for us. And thank you in advance for anybody who can help. If anybody has any idea for any additional help, you feel free to contact me. I will also give you my contact to share. I'll be happy to talk with anybody.
Thank you. Um, what I know sometimes, at least um, combat soldiers might be concerned about sharing some of their mental health issues because they're worried that they may no longer be able to serve. What would you say to somebody who might be struggling, but is afraid? Well, if I tell people, that might impact different aspects of my life negatively, and they kind of keep it inside. And how do you get through to those people who might need the help the most, but might be hesitant to sign up?
Yeah, that's a great challenge I'll speak frankly. Men are stubborn. Like we don't like to get any assistance, anything. It was also a problem with me. It was a problem with many other people. We don't like getting help. We don't like admitting that there's something wrong. So one of the main things we're trying to do also in this specific organization, but in general as a society, is to say it's okay to get treatment. Mental health is no reason to be ashamed. So there are a lot of campaigns nationwide to share awareness, to increase the awareness of PTSD and any mental like disease. We want people to know that it's okay, that you're not alone. And the main advice that, like I told many of my friends that were debating what to do, and it's also the same thing, not only when you look at mental health, when you look at physical health, we need to look at the future. If we don't speak out now, the problem only increases, whether it's PTSD symptoms, whether it's your backache, whether it's your shoulders, your knees, whatever we don't say now, whatever we don't speak of today, will only get worse in the next coming years. And I love Israel. I was willing to give my life for Israel. But when I'm 44, I will stop doing reserve duty. And then I need to be only thinking about my family and friends. And if I don't take care of myself now when I'm 30 years old, what will I be when I'm 45? I'll be in a much worse condition. I won't be able to treat myself. So it's working on many factors. First, we need to get rid of the shamefulness. Let's call it that way. I was also shameful. I wasn't proud to say that I have PTSD. And part of my process of in the treatment was saying out loud, sharing a post on LinkedIn saying, I have PTSD, and it's okay. So first of all, that's what we want to do. It's a disability, but it's okay. The same way you're not ashamed of losing a leg or a limb or of any sort, you shouldn't be ashamed of PTSD. Then we want to share awareness and spread awareness of that it's treatable. If we treat it right, you can go back to normal. You go for an intense treatment, 6 months, a year, you go on this retreat, and your life is okay. You don't need to lose your job. You don't need to stop driving. You can even go and do reserve duty. You can do everything you want. You can have a family, you can have friends, you can do everything. But you need to treat yourself. And without the proper mental treatment, your life will not look the same. It's a gradual process that can only get worse if we don't treat it. So those are the ways that what I would do.
I really appreciate you sharing your story with us, Noam. Maccabee Nation is going to make a donation on behalf of our members, but also I really encourage everyone, if they have the means, to do so as well. If you send me a picture that you made a donation of $50 or more, I'm happy to gift everyone a year subscription to Maccabee Nation as well. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll see everybody next time. Thank you. Is there anything that you want to add before we go, Noam, that you'd like the community to know?
Just want to thank you very much for tuning in and listening and seeing this. And thank you, Jason, for having me and giving me this opportunity to spread the news. I'm sorry for not being maybe as coherent as I would like to, but it's a bit emotional when I speak about this. But thank you very much for this opportunity and feel free
No,
to
thank
reach
you for
out to
joining
me.
us. I think you very eloquently explained what you're trying to do, and I think it's really commendable. And hopefully we can help a small part.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.